Now, you say that Asian countries will sort of drift towards Beijing. Give us your argument for that thesis.
Yeah, well, Steve, in the short term, I think what we are seeing, the reality that these Asian countries are facing right now is that they effectively have to kiss the ring, right? You've seen the likes of South Korea, Vietnam, all offering concessions to Trump, Japan also trying to make a trade deal there. And I think what that reflects is in the very immediate term, you have a sense of understandable panic in these countries around Asia and the Indo-Pacific because they are worried about the impact of these potentially disastrous tariffs on their economies and on their populations. I mean, I'm sure you've talked about this on the program before, just the degree to which globalization, free trade, all of that has helped lift millions of people out of poverty, lift living standards across the region. And there's a real concern out here that that could change. But I think longer term, what this is going to do is remind people in this part of the world, governments in this part of the world, that the United States under Donald Trump is not a predictable ally or partner. And that means they're going to start to realign themselves strategically far more with China. And let's not forget, Beijing is the biggest trading partner for a lot of the countries in this part of the world. So it's not that dramatic a shift in any case. But it is an opportunity that the U.S. is wasting out here, given the fact that so many Asian countries, particularly recently, have expressed regional disquiet over how China is behaving in the South China Sea.
Yeah, so I guess if you see sort of a further strengthening of ties in amongst Asian nations, I mean, it definitely has consequences then for the U.S.
Yeah, it does. And I think what you will see is that, really hard to quantify aspect of soft power. The United States has always been the emblem, not just of democracy in this part of the world, but it's an aspirational place. It's a place where people want to send their children to university. It's the place that has been the architecture of that free trade environment that has helped to boost so many economies in this region. And it's basically saying to its partners in this part of the world that, look, you know what? We're going to head for a divorce, and all the terms are on our terms, not yours. I think what this does is it creates a real sense of a lack of goodwill amongst Asian governments. We've heard comments, quite strong ones, I have to say, from the likes of Singapore's Prime Minister Lawrence Wong, who talked about the fact that these tariffs are akin to the kind that we've seen from the 1930s, which eventually led, in his words, to real conflict and the Second World War. And I think what you will see as a result, and you're already seeing this, as I argue in my column, is a lot of countries in this part of the world reevaluating their defense and strategic positions. They're going to start rearming themselves. We've already seen defense spending and defense budgets go up in this part of the world. And what that means is it's a more dangerous world for all of us.
Yeah. Yeah, you alluded to the Smoot-Hawley tariffs back in 1930 that exacerbated, many say, the effects of the Great Depression, and then did, obviously, in 1939, was a prelude to World War II. But China has a long history of dealing with these kinds of disputes and taking the long game of what some say is a game of chicken. What should, or what do you feel will be Beijing's response? More measured or sharper?
Well, I can't speak for what might be going through Xi Jinping's mind right now, Steve, but, it would not surprise me if people are advising him to sort of stand firm with the position that Beijing has been taking of late. And I was speaking with a Chinese academic yesterday, and what he said really struck me. He said, look, all that we want from the United States is some respect. We are the world's second largest economy, he said, and if the U.S. really wants to make a deal, then send a bunch of delegation of U.S. officials to China and talk to Xi Jinping and some of the officials there. But China's not going to back down. At least that was his opinion. And that's certainly my sense as well. I don't think China will be the first to blink in this staring contest.